This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations. We're your co-host, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington. And my partner, my pattern, Janet Barrett, is coming to us from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. It's a beautiful day here. I hope it's nice wherever you are.
Yes, it's nice, and it's definitely fall is in the air here.
Oh, yeah. Definitely fall. Definitely. And everybody, we have a listener call-in number. If you want to call us in the first 10 minutes of the show, that's always a good time to do it before we get into heart space. It's 1-844-390-8255. 1-844-390-8255. And what are we talking about today, Joan?
Well, why would they call us? Why do they want to talk to us?
Well, there you go. That's the big thing. We are here, listeners, for you to be helpful. We offer this because Joan and I are just so very passionate about the joy that can be found in life. And we come to that perspective from knowing the other things that one can find in life. And we know we're all someplace on that journey. So if it's helpful to talk to us and over the air, we're more than happy to do that.
I don't understand.
You're having a good time today.
Contentious today. Okay, so what I usually, folks, if you want to call in because our topic is up for you and you've got some things to contribute, or you do have some questions about it, that would be fabulous. If you also do just have a burning desire and want to call in and say, Blair, this is happening to me and what do we do about it? That would be fabulous to have our input, and it could inform the show.
They don't know that yet,
because
yes.
You are all helping to co-create the show, and if you feel motivated to call in, it's also a gift to other people, because other people, no doubt, will be out there with the same question. We are thousands of listeners, tens of thousands of listeners joining us.
And we do know the value of someone speaking up and everyone going, oh, yeah, that's mine too. I didn't necessarily know it or recognize it, but I got it. Because we all are one. And so it's somewhere in each of us, whatever your question is or your experience of life. And we know the value of in that sharing, that connection that happens. So it's priceless, definitely.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about?
Now for the big secret. The topic for today is the power of mindsets. And mindsets are the mental image pictures through which we view life. And as we become more conscious, our unconscious concepts are coming to the surface. So how is this showing up in your life? What would it be like if your worldview was different? I tell you, we are also coming up to a really powerful eclipse. There is some major bunch of astrological things happening today and tomorrow that it's supposed to be really cracking things open. We are definitely having mindset shifts, whether we are asking for them or not. So, stay tuned because we're going to be talking about ways to consciously shift your mindset and how it to be useful and helpful is what we're talking about.
And this, we want to make sure that tomorrow night, September 15th, 7 p.m. Pacific, is our free conference call. So if you'd rather share a little more closer up and personal, that free conference call for an hour is where we really get into how to be within what we call heart-centered awareness. Make sure you have the comfortability and the skills and look at what might be causing any issue if you have it, and just enjoying up close and personal with a small group of people that we really just get to feel that connection. So we're at whatever time and space you're in, we all come together. And if you can't make that particular timing, you can get on the mailing list for it. We'll send it to you. And once again, there is no time or space when we're dealing with consciousness. So the information that is talked about is real, no matter what time you hear it, no matter where you are when you hear it. You can connect to that dynamic there.
So wait. So
yeah.
What do you mean? Do you mean, leading question, do you mean that if people sign up for it, whether or not they're actually able to listen to the live call, they're going to receive benefit from it?
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. Because it's like, the internet's been really wonderful at providing information available. I think what our guest last week, Sonia Barrett, was really clear in articulating for us was you can feel it. And you can feel it in the moment. And if you're paying attention, you can feel it in another moment. And,
And the moment after that.
And the moment after that, right?
Yes. Listen, talking about moments and finding information, you all out there can go deeper with us, connect with us beyond the show by going to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And that way you can access all these podcasts. Janet was mentioning that we had a guest last week, Sonia Barrett, no relation. You can listen to the podcast off the website. You can also access Janet and mine personal websites that we've got, or professional websites we've got off of that with all our voluminous information. You can also see the most recent blog posts. Janet and I both write weekly, and so we've got some really valuable information. That's another way to absorb the information besides listening to our podcasts here. You can also tune into us on YouTube. The show is on YouTube, and also I have a YouTube channel, and I post my YouTube videos on the meetup as well, on the website as well. And you can also find out about our meetups. So ways to get in touch with us up close and personal, like actually in body. You can come and physically see Janet in action in her own home. You can also see me in action in our local libraries around the Puget Sound, Janet in Portland, and me everywhere from Seattle down through Olympia. And you can also learn about Janet and my sessions on the show, Our sessions, what are our sessions? What do you do, Janet?
I have no idea.
At this point, we have no idea.
We just allow people to come and share, and then we go to work. And the work is really shifting into the reality where it's just information. You don't have to be so attached. And we create that, both you and I create that in our space, that it's, well, what is the truth? What is the authentic voice? What is being in the present? What difference does that make in your life? And how does everything start to shift from that point? That's pretty much what we're about, I think. So.
Well, you have a very interesting technique. I no longer do readings unless you're an old client and you contact me for a reading. I don't do readings anymore. Mine is more coaching oriented and teaching oriented. So I will coach you and draw your greater information out of you, your greater wisdom. And I'll also teach you techniques that you can use to transform yourself. But Janet, your sessions are really interesting and kind of hard to define. And yet change happens.
Except, yeah, right. Change happens. And I think that's kind of where we each have our gift and how we share. And that's what's fun and unique about everybody, you and me and everyone else who does this kind of work, is that we all have something to offer. For me personally, I think it's sensing the energy dynamics that are present in what a person embodies about any particular issue or in general terms, and just playing with it and being in that state of reality that we are just particles of light and information and resonances, and that you can feel that shift into that state of potential where nothing is what you think it is. And so it can be a very physical experience for people often, whether you're in person with me or someplace over there. You can feel stuff. because there is no time and space. And it's to the degree that we each embody that awareness. So it's kind of timeless and spaceless, and you can feel the connection, and stuff happens and stuff changes. And I think it's just awesome, right? Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you put a little skill with it, and then you go, oh, whoa, wasn't expecting that. And that's always the fun part.
Well, and that's the thing I tell people about our consciousness techniques is what the stuff I do. And the work that you do is it's improvisational. And I believe that is how we are navigating in this new world. Is it's improvisational. You can't go off a script. You can't go off a set pattern. You can't go off a set amount of protocols or the old specific ways of doing things. It's becoming more diffuse and harder to physically define. And you can have really marked transformation. And it is more, you achieve better results by being improvisational. I tell people we're sliding into mindsets here because the mind that sets the intention for something to happen is the same mind that created the problem.
And the mindset that says information has to be a certain way when I deal with you. That's a mindset. Yes. And that can be very limiting. So we're really getting beyond that. And that's what we're going to explore when we come back from our break, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of information today.
Yeah. And so in the next 90 seconds, I just want to remind folks that if you do want to get in on this conversation, you haven't missed the window. Call us at 844-390-8255, and we'll just wrap you into this wonderful, non-defined, bizarre whirlwind of conversation that we have going on.
There are things going on out there, people. You're probably feeling it in some way. So we're looking forward to today.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Oh, and that's Conscious with Joan and Janet at Gmail for that connection to the free conference call, right?
So what she meant by what she said, those jumbled words that she said, was if you wanted to join us at the Conscious conference call, am I jumbling my words too? If you want to join us at the Conscious conference call, email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. And you could also find it on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And join us, join the fun. It is a little more coherent. We just had a disembodied being. All right, I think it's definitely time for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we're talking about the power of mindsets in a state of grace.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, Back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. We're along here with Janet, and we are talking about the power of mindsets.
Well, we're getting into it, aren't we? So,
Yes.
yeah, how all that's about. Wow. Okay, so let's get into it because I think it's really there. So everybody, if you're listening to this and you have the time to just be live with us, allow that part of yourself that can join us to join us. The part of you that needs to keep track of time and day and your daily life is fine. They're operational too.
When you're listening, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you're still live with us. I mean,
yeah, you're still live with us. The challenge is you might listen to this before you go to sleep or something, because we have people who do that also. So what we want to look at today is how we've set it all up. That's what mindsets are. They set up our reality. There are perceptual biases on how we decide to experience things. So let's get into it and see what's going on for all of us here. So just breathe. Everybody, you can do that. It doesn't take a lot of effort. So we start from the physical. Notice your heart. Feel it beat. What it's like to be okay, to have a heart and that it's functioning. It's your symbol of life. Enjoy it. There we go. And then the next part is the emotional terrain. So we are emotional creatures. We acknowledge it. To the degree we allow ourselves to enjoy it, empower it, just notice, be from a neutral place, a neutral being that you're not attached to what you're noticing about yourself in this context. And so what are the flavors that are running today, right in this moment? You might have more than one flavor, and that's just fine. You might experience it, something you see or something you feel. Just allow yourself to become aware and not attached. And there we go. That's getting there, everybody. And then the third meaning of heart and heart-centered awareness is the core essence of all. And this is where we step off into the infinite sea of potential, where you and I are one. And we're just bits and pieces of photons, which can be of light, which can have a little biomass to it, of resonances and vibrations, and of information, our stories. And this is where all that breaks down into that. All your experiences, all the idea, all your identity, whatever, just softens. And this is what we're letting ourselves notice, the softening, the wiggle room. And so the part of you that can pay attention and enjoy this experience with us right in this moment is paying attention and is right in this moment. And the other part, it's just noticing the time. Okay, what do we notice right now? Okay, we're still shifting gears here. I can feel that. When we get to the quiet. So the idea that you do have quiet within you. The idea, the concept, and we allow it to be reality, is that we're multidimensional, energetic creatures, taking in information and all different kinds of time, space, and awareness, beyond time, space, and awareness, where there is no time, space, or awareness. We're just sensory beings. And you can feel it, you can hear it, you can see it. You are limited by your human sensory mechanism. And then you also have that cognizant awareness, where information is just present. And you have no idea why it is, but it just is. So it's knowing as opposed to knowledge, knowledge is more about mindsets. You have systems of the way things are, you think things are, or way things you've been told they are. So that's what we'll play with today. Still got a lot of shifting going on there. There's the breath. All right, Joan, what you noticing, sweetie?
Yeah, I am noticing a lot of shifting.
Mm.
And there's just a lot of stuff going on in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's kind of alarming because it really seems to me that what I'm seeing are chunks of concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that we are going through a really seismic shift. Mm-hmm. And so if you've got solid belief systems, it's going to feel like an earthquake when they shatter.
Mm-hmm. And that's the sense of alarm, is that something's different, right? Something's coming. And we all feel like cats and dogs reacting to something going to happen before it happens, right?
Yeah, actually, you can tell when there's going to be an earthquake because you see animals. Yeah. In fact, if you look in the paper or if you look online, all the notification of lost animals, or it goes up exponentially just before an earthquake. And you'll see animals that are underground, running around that aren't supposed to be running around. And because they know something. And I'm not predicting an earthquake necessarily. Here we are, you and I in the Northwest and anything. But what it feels like is people are going through their internal earthquakes with this mindset shift. And the thing is that what's shifting is an expansion to something that actually feels better, feels greater. It's a space where you can achieve, what you really want. So you're thinking that you want the winning lotto ticket. You think you want Mr. Right. And really what you want is a sense of freedom and expansiveness and to be immersed in universal love. Yeah. And that's what we're shifting to, and letting go of those old beliefs are really challenging and painful.
Well, and it's like we can use the earth as an example. It is alive inside. Right? It's a molten center. And so scientists can track all the fluctuation and the movement of the earth that's going on all the time, whether you can feel that or not. And then it gets to a place where it gets more surface, up to the surface. And then you really can start to notice, and then there might be something, the wave, the volcano, the earthquake, it gets out into this outside layer of Earth, the stratosphere, up into this place here. And it's all okay. It's always happening. And it's just within us, we're in this evolutionary shift that's opening up, and that's the mindset. So really, what if in your mindset it was set for feeling flux and change, and that you're still okay? Because some may have a mindset that I'm not okay. And then that creates more rigidity as opposed to the softness that we're looking for. And sometimes some of us are going to encode that experience to be very dramatic. And some of us are going to just go in more in a sense of flow. For me personally, right, in where I am in my life and what I'm holding awareness of, this is just the softness of love. This is just the support. There's not a lot of poking and, hard stuck, rigid stuff. It is really softening. And I'm really liking that.
Yeah, I'm sensing that. I am noticing the shift, and it is, it's reminding me of, actually my YouTube video that's going out tomorrow, where I was looking at power, and I was looking at the different ways to, portray power. And the old paradigm is changing. Mm-hmm. I have people show up to my meetups who are immersed in the old paradigm, And so they just go ahead to take leadership, and they go ahead to, be the know-it-all in the group. And it's not kind of how the group is being held. And it's interesting to me, because coming back at them with being directive or stuff like that doesn't serve anybody, and it isn't working, and that stuff isn't working. So we're all needing a mindset shift about what real power is and how each of us embody real power.
Well, I think you're describing really well the difference between rules and guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the guideline is, okay, this would be nice, and this is the direction we're going, as opposed to, it has to be this way or forget it. Right? And that is the softness there. And we're seeing that show up in things. And certainly when you get into consciousness work, something is something till it's something else. Right? And so that rule, that reality set that seems so real, and it is in that moment, it is that until it's not. And it can change that quickly. And it can be both those things at the same time. And so power mindset. So mindsets for me come into play from a place of, I think of ourselves as consciousness, chooses to embody, chooses to experience something or a way of being or some part of itself as it explores. And it says, okay, we're going to sit and have this happen. Not the specifics so much, but the intention. And that discernment gets made and says, oh, okay. So then everything happens around that to support that. And that happens in my perceptual biases and how I look at things and how my stories start to show up and form. And that creates all mindset. And we consciously choose in this work and in our lives to look at that and go, well, that's okay. And what if I'd like to experience something different? And in this state of where we are right now, that's where it happens. That's what being present is.
Yeah, so that's, yes. Yep, uh-huh. Okay. You can be clear, you can be specific, and you can be direct in all of this, and there are options. It's not black and white, is what I hear you describe it.
No,
it's not black and white. There's at least 50 of those, and say it's shades of fuchsia and puce, and so what my mind was drifting to is two different British women, J.K. Rowling and Emma. Just lost her last name. She played Hermione in all of the.
Emma Stone, was that it?
No, that's a different Emma. But anyhow,
okay.
Oh God, I hope I have her name. And that part, I'll just focus on J.K. Rowling. So J.K. Rowling is a very small blonde woman, and she is fairly soft-spoken because British women are soft-spoken for the most part, not talking about the Prime Minister. And yet here she is, immensely powerful, and she's produced this incredible body of work, and there's been all these movies made of it, and then there's, the Wizarding Worlds created from around in Universal Studio, and so she's, a billionaire, and but you wouldn't get that from the vibe in her aura. You wouldn't get that from directly talking to her. It's a very quiet strength. Mm-hmm. It's an introverted strength, and it doesn't have to be the aggression or dynamism, that kind of stuff. And
you're doing really well here.
I'm just drinking caffeine this morning, honestly. And so that's what I was sitting here with, is how energetic power, what's true energetic power, doesn't look evident to folks, and that each one of us is immensely powerful, and it doesn't matter whether you are, you know, a 3-month-old baby or a 97-year-old toothless person, we all have the equal amount of power as creator of our realities, as creator of this reality.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that? What's that mind? That mindset shift is taking away from the external, what external power looks like, and placing it on your internals.
So we've got lots of different mindsets that we deal with at any one moment in how we address life, how we experience ourselves in it, and what all that's about. Is that kind of what you're noticing?
Kind of, sort of, yep, uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all the ways we view life, all the ways and our mindsets affect how we interact in the world, how we create our reality. And the old way of dismantling them was very time consuming and create a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And we have new ways of doing that now.
Yes. And it's a whole lot more fun. It's not like therapy. And that's no judgment against therapy, because that's a practice that works. And certainly in those realities, it works. And then it's like, this is consciousness technologies take something and they utilize how scientists have seemed to perceive energy is, and opened that up and said, okay, things can change in a moment, because we witness that something happens different from moment to moment, and however long a moment is. And so why don't we apply that? And why wouldn't you? And so it's a whole different, and that in itself is a mindset. And so we're looking at all these layers of mindsets that we're running. Every belief you have, if you have a belief, that's a mindset. If you have a sense of yourself, that's a mindset. There are so many mindsets that we're involved in at any time. We're just realizing the power of how are you tuned. That's a tuning to me, a mindset. It says I'm going to experience information, this part of the spectrum. And okay, and what kind of results is that getting me? And okay, I think key is recognizing that you have a mindset, right? Do we think in those terms? What do you notice about that, Joan?
The key, yes, I guess the key is recognizing that you have a mindset. The key is recognizing that you're viewing the world through slides and not really as how it is. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I was thinking as you were talking is we get a little bit frightened about instantaneously changing our mindsets.
Oh, yeah.
We're worried about the shock that creates on our bodies. Uh-huh. If you read about people who win the lotto, it's not only that they go bankrupt within 5 years, it's a huge shock. It's a huge titanic shock to their system to suddenly remove all their poverty pictures. Uh-huh. But using the consciousness techniques that we use, you're taking your whole self into a new universe or a new way of being. So it doesn't take any time or space to catch up. You can instantaneously change not only your mind, but your whole state of being as effortlessly as stepping to the left or stepping to the right.
Right. So talk to us about parallel universes, because you do that so well. You so enjoy that. So
I do. So yes, my favorite thing to share with folks at meetups and everywhere else is parallel universes. And what happens, from the moment that you're born and you turned left or you turned right, a parallel self split off and went off on a different trajectory. And you have that amount. Think about how many times that's happened. You have that amount of parallel lives going on in your past, which also means those are that amount of parallel universes of information that you can access. Mm-hmm. The wonderful thing to realize about that is that there are no mistakes. Mm-hmm. You did do that, or you didn't do that. You got into Stanford, or you didn't date that person. All those things already happened to you. You have access to all that past, but it also means that out in front of you, you have equal amount of choices and shifts equal amount of choices, doors to step through of different experiences than the one you're in now. Now, I had somebody at this workshop ask me a really specific question, which was, she was still grieving the death of her child and her husband from just a few years ago. And, could she step into a parallel universe where they would be back? And if you're at a very advanced level, yes. And what's more likely at the level what I was teaching is you're going to step into a universe where you are more connected to them in the non-physical, or step into a universe where you are more resolved to that, where you're integrated to that instead of, in the grieving process. In grief, that's a long story about that. In some ways you never grieve all your loss, but it gets easier.
Right. You can have a different experience.
You can have a different experience with it. So sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. Erase all that. So here's another example. A woman from a couple weeks ago, she was stuck in the Delta when the Delta airline, when their computers crashed. And so she was stuck in Atlanta. There was no way she was going to get back to Seattle. All the flights had left. And she realized she could step to the left or the right as she was in line to the gate agent. And she did that. The gate agent said, there's a flight leaving for Seattle in 15 minutes in Concourse B. You can make it if you run. She ran over there, and there were 100 people waiting for 15 standby seats. And the gate agent there said over the loudspeaker, we're taking people with confirmed reservations. She pulled the reservation out of her purse. She looked at her ticket, and it was the same flight number as the flight number on the board. She walked straight on the plane. She got to Seattle at 4:00 in the morning, and she came down to baggage claim, and her luggage was just coming down the ramp. All those sort of things synchronistically shifted. She wasn't back in the old going, oh God, I guess I have to sleep on the floor of the airport in Atlanta kind of thing. It just completely aligned her into a new way of being.
Now that means everything is a mindset. So in order for that setup to have happened, she had to have a shift in how she perceived reality. That reality got a little fluid for her.
And it wasn't her mind that was shifting.
Right.
It wasn't.
No.
So the thing about even the term mindset, I would think, is that it's intellectual.
Right.
And these things don't work when you're operating from your intellect.
No, this is what heart-centered awareness is about. This is about the field of unified consciousness. This is about zero point. This is about the place where you are in the infinite sea of potential. Things haven't happened yet. They haven't formed yet, or there's no time or space. So what you step into the reality that what you think you know is maybe a little different in this step. And that's really important for people to understand. If you're going to understand anything, and we like the logic, so that's about understanding, is that we can be here and we can be there and we can have multiple selves in their reality, right up close and personal, places you don't know. All this is possible when you open up about how consciousness works and beyond the limits of the physical human, sensory mechanisms. So it'll change how you experience life. We do it all the time.
And what this was reminding me of is, it's like, the power of intention. And and I may have already said this, but I like to do this stuff without intention, with an open mind, because the mind that created the intention is the same mind that created the problem. So to go into this, it's not a mind thing. Yeah. I like to do a lot of walking around and stepping into, because that takes me out of my mind. And my training was clairvoyant, which is really, you're out of your analyzer there. You're not in that aspect of your mind, but it can be very mind driven. So moving around physically, physicalizing it, tuning into it on a physical body level or emotional level or a sensing level gets me out of the intellect mind part of it, and even the clairvoyant part of it gets me out of that old paradigm and into this full body immersion new thing that's going on.
I think, so one thing you've got to do is recognize you have a mindset. And that means, if you think in terms of intention and expectation, intention is what you'd like to have happen. Expectation is what you feel is going to happen. And how those are two different things. So you have to recognize that, and probably that what you felt in that sense was, that's the way my mind works. And you hear people use that statement all the time. And so there's only so many possibilities allowable. So you're constantly trying to figure out something within those limits. So, and that's the mindset, because the limits are set. And so as we invite ourselves to be within awareness of where we are right in this moment of the open field of potential here, that's the sense of expansiveness. So your willingness to allow something to be experienced differently is important. And you can start to see all the layers that hold us together, if that's control or if that's boundaries or what, and that we have managed to take mind, which we really value in this culture, and it's probably to our detriment from what we notice, and move back into, okay, what do you notice? Ooh, that was interesting.
There was this, I think, hello, wondering.
I love it. Okay. Something's paying attention out there. And what that's all about. That totally took me off my thought. Thanks a lot. Okay. So what do we notice, Joan?
I noticed that there's a lot of input from everywhere. And it's just it's been that kind of day, which is interesting. Yeah. Mercury is retrograde, which means communication is snafu, but there's like so much communication going on.
Right.
And so out of mind. You should have to be out of mind.
So if we go back to heart, let's go back to heart. And and this is maybe why people don't recognize it so much sometimes, their experience. This is real to you and I. Yes. And for people that are tuned in, and I mean in an energetic way, they feel it also. There are people that are going to listen to this show and go, what are they talking about? And that's fine, because we're all at different places with it. So if we're tuned in and you could allow yourself to notice, see, there's a mindset. And really, maybe sometimes life is just about noticing how many mindsets we've got running. There's judgment in mindsets. There's also limitations in a mindset. So it's about constructing mindsets that are open. They have the guideline as opposed to the rule. And what that would be like. So maybe in this moment, notice what it would be like to allow your rules to shift just a little bit. They don't have to go very far. Just what if the standard rule just became a little softer, became more of a guideline. Maybe there's sometimes you do want to color outside the lines. And what happens when you allow yourself to go outside the lines? And let's just see what happens. So in your mind, think about how school was, and it was important to learn the boundary and the shape of something. And then it's also important to learn beyond the boundary and the shape, into a new shape, into a new boundary. And you just kept letting that shift. And what might be different in your life? There we go. There we go. And that kind of, in this state of awareness, it takes the constriction off. And if you're experiencing information or something physical as a constriction, what does that say? So something doesn't fit. So allow it to be the mindset that's opening up and see what happens.
My mindset is opening up, but I'm aware of the constriction of time and space.
Yeah.
Therefore, everyone hold that thought, hold that energy, hold that mindset. And we will be back. We have to stop for a commercial break. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. But stay tuned because we're talking about the power of mindsets in a state of grace.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about the power of mindset.
Yeah, we're all in them. That's for sure.
Yep.
You wanted to be share about the double split experiment.
Yes.
Okay.
What it was occurring to me. So, I don't know if I have all the details correct, but about 100 years ago, they were doing an experiment with projecting electrons, and they had a room with a double slit, and they were projecting the electrons, and the electrons would go one by one through one or the other slit. And they were filming this, and the scientists that were filming this left the room briefly, and the cameras kept rolling, and as soon as they left the room, one electron would split and go through both holes. And then when the scientists came back, it went back to the way that they expected to see it. So what it shows us is the power of observation on reality. And what it throws into question is every scientific experiment from the beginning of time has been influenced by the observer. Right. So that kind of shows you how our mindsets, it's not only just viewing the world through slides. So for instance, like post-traumatic stress is when suddenly a memory of a traumatic experience, you're back in Afghanistan, you're, locked in a closet or whatever. Those come up while you're standing in a reality. You hear a car backfire and suddenly you're in Vietnam. That is a totally different thing than observing your reality and having your reality shift and be different because of what you're looking at. Right. And that's kind of the thing we do when we're playing with consciousness and doing our consciousness techniques, is that you have actually changed your reality. You have shifted into something where, we're all living happily ever after.
Yeah, I like that reality.
To program everybody.
I like that reality at least. Well, and if I can't take care of you, I can at least have a good time for myself. Right?
So for instance, I
Yeah.
tell this story of I was working, when I first started doing this, I was working with somebody who was going through a lawsuit, and there was some being sued by Lloyd's of London, and Lloyd's of London never settles out of court. And I basically pointed her to a solution where it all unfolded in her favor. And the next day, in record time, Lloyd's of London settled out of court.
Wow.
And it was, it was not the perfect, wasn't entirely off scot-free, but certainly wasn't bankrupting like before. And so it had settled in a way that you couldn't have preconceived. And that's kind of what's going on, is that, yeah.
And would you say that that happened, you were willing to be in that space, but she also was willing to be in that space and see that as a possibility, right?
No.
I mean, in her mindset, was that not possible?
Yeah, no, it wasn't even a discussion. It wasn't even a preconceived notion. And that's the magic that I like to have, is that these things happen out of mind. It happens, you couldn't have even conceived this because it's coming from your greater consciousness and not the little mind that likes to sort of design and write the script.
Yeah. No.
It's coming, and it's not you. So it's not your higher power. It's not God. It's not the angels making up your life. It is you as consciousness, and that there's a greater awareness that you are. And that is the aspect of you that you are aligning with and creating your reality.
Yeah.
As.
Isn't it fascinating? It's so fascinating to be alive. There's so much wonder. And I don't even call it magic because that's got all that field behind it. Field of reference. It's just about wonder to me. It's about being able to step into that place.
Yes. And you know what? I wonder.
Yes.
I wonder what we're talking about next week.
Oh my gosh. All right. Tell me. I'm ready.
Well, we're talking about everything has sentience. And I have actually realized I've been expanding that topic beyond what I thought it was going to be. When you and I were brainstorming for next week, it was coming up, I had a conversation with a cactus once about weather. And you had a conversation with a CPAP machine. And now I'm also realizing is things that I would define as unconscious actually have consciousness.
Right.
So there's a lot more where that came from. Tune in next week to learn about everything having sentience and how to talk to rocks.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fun because we've all got
It's going to be a rockin' show.
Yeah. We've got
So real quick, we also want to remind folks that tomorrow we have our conscious conference call. So if you felt like you couldn't get a word in edgewise today, you were correct. So call us tomorrow at 7:00 and join our conscious conference call. It's a small group experience where we go into heart space and there's room for everyone to chime in. You can connect with us by emailing consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Or you can also connect with us by going to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. There'll be notification there as well about joining this conference call. You can listen to podcasts and access the old shows that we have. You can also go to Janet's website and my website from there. You can read Janet's blog from this week and mine from last Friday. You can find out about all our most recent meetups in Seattle and all the way down to Portland. We are also on Facebook. Janet Barrett, Joan Newcomb, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet is on Facebook. Twitter @Joan and Janet. I am @Joan Newcomb. And subscribe to us on YouTube because this show is also on YouTube. You can just lie in bed and listen to us all day long on YouTube. You can also watch my YouTube channel, Joan M. Newcomb. I think Joan M. Newcomb is my YouTube channel, and you can see all the videos I've done there. Anything else?
You got it all out, Joan. That was really
2 minutes.
impressive.
Keep talking, okay?
Really. Well, I want to leave people with just what if today, the rest of today or tomorrow, you just allowed yourself to notice your mindsets and see what comes up from that. And don't judge them. Just notice that you have them and what difference that might make. Because it isn't about doing anything. It's about just recognizing how you operate in your world and how you set your limits. And are you willing to try something new? Do you enjoy doing the same old thing? Our thoughts get habituated, those narrow lenses. What if you put on a different set of glasses? It can be like that. What if it was that simple? There's a great little exercise to do. Just in this state, notice the glasses you have on. And what if you could take them off and put a different pair on and see what comes to mind? And maybe there's several different pairs of glasses. There's easy ways to make this an enjoyable process and see what comes out of being real with yourself. So I just would offer that.
Yes, and in this new world, you can make up your own techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So the glasses thing is fabulous. That's you choosing to look through clearer lenses.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was really a jam-packed show. We've really had a great time. We really appreciate you listening to us because you are helping to co-create the show. It doesn't matter when you're listening to it. You could be listening to it 5 years in the future because there is no time or space as consciousness. So you are helping to co-create this moment right now.
Thank you, everyone. It's been lovely to be with you.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett.
Thank you for joining us as Consciousness. Tune in next week, same time, same channel.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand.